Hi there. Today we're going to walk through the steps on doing a proper PM or preventive maintenance on a RPS walk-behind scrubber. Before we get started though, we're going to need to gather the PDF of the document where we can record all the findings. You can do that two ways. You can scan the QR code on the keychain or on the back of the machine with your phone, download the PDF and print it, or you can go to our website and enter the serial number of the machine, and that'll be located on there. In addition to that document, we're going to need to gather some basic items to do the PM. It's a good idea to have some paper towel, rubber gloves, basic hand tools, eye protection, a tape measure, and we're going to need a battery hydrometer to measure the level in the batteries. Before we do anything to this machine, we're going to fill it up with some clean solution and actually give it a run to see if we notice anything right off the bat. So let's head over there. So now we're at our water source. I'm going to put some clean solution in the tank. There's multiple fill points on this solution tank. There's one in the rear here, which I'm going to use today. And if we look to the front, we also have a larger fill that has a stainless mesh screen in it to keep debris from getting into the solution tank. And this one also has a built-in 10-foot hose. This is nice if you're moving the machine from place to place in a large building and need to fill and don't have hoses at those locations, or if you are going building to building, this is a great tool to have on the machine. So once we're filled up with an adequate amount of solution, which you can see here on the sight tube, we're filling up here. You have gradient marks. So we're just going to put about 5 gallons in just so we can give it a test. Now that we've filled the machine with water, we're going to test some of the functionality of the control panel and actually operate the machine. So I'm going to test the potentiometer. This varies the speed of the machine, and either one of the green buttons under the handle make it go. So I'm going to make sure we don't have any dead spots. Then I'm going to check the reverse, which is on the left. Do the same with that, with speed. That's good. Our key switch works. Battery gauge is working. Let me adjust the water here. So the water switch is functioning properly. Your down pressure switch is functioning properly. This is your scrub brush switch. We can hear the brushes go up and down. The green button is your menu selector, which takes you to your 4-hour meters. So now we can record our key switch time, our drive time, our brushes turning, and our vacuum. Last is the squeegee. That lowers it, turns the vac motor on. When I raise, that should shut off in about 10 seconds. Now let's do some scrubbing. Motors sound good. They're contacting the floor. We have good water flow. Squeegee's actually adjusted really well. It's picking up. Okay, now that we've tested the machine, we're going to drain the recovery tank, drain the solution, and then come back to the work area, and Kevin's going to go through the water system with you.
Okay, the logical way to do a PM on a machine, once you've done that initial test and you see what kind of condition it's in, is follow the flow of the water through the machine, checking the items that make the machine go. So where we fill the tank, we have a stainless strainer screen that's in here to make sure that no solids get in the machine, that no pranksters throw cigarette butts in there. So we want to make sure, one, that it's in place, it's in good condition, it's clean. Drop it back in. There should be a splash cover over it. Then water comes out of the solution tank, headed for the scrub deck, and it goes through an inline filter that's located underneath the frame, right behind the left side drive tire. It just unscrews. And it's a stainless filter screen inside a jar. It may have some debris on it. It may look clean. My recommendation, like there's some plastic shavings on this. You've got it off to inspect it. It's worth taking it to the sink and rinsing it with hot water because things like minerals in the water may collect in the screen. Residual detergent may coagulate in there. So while we've got it off, take it and rinse it out with hot water. Once you've done that, press it back into the jar. It actually stays in there. And then you can just screw it back in place. It should go on easy and just snug it. Don't crank it tight. It's got an O-ring that seals it. If you crank it down tight, when the water evaporates, it may leave a little bit of dry dirt or chemical that acts like glue the next time you need to unscrew it. It's really hard to do. So that's our solution filter. It's now clean. So water comes from the tank through the filter, heads to the scrub deck. We're going to go up there and take a look at the working parts of the scrub deck. So now we're going to take a look at the scrub deck. This is a disc machine with our jaws. So I undo the latch. I'm going to swing the jaws all the way open to give myself lots of room to get underneath the machine. I'm actually going to go ahead, because the tank is empty, I'm going to tip the tank back, and that makes it really easy for me to see and touch everything underneath. So it's unlatched. Tip it back, and it's got a heavy-duty catch cord that holds the tank. So now what I'm looking at is solution flow through the filter. When we test ran the machine, or through the water control valve, we test ran the machine, water came to the scrub deck, so I know the valve is functioning properly. I want to check the wiring for my scrub motors, make sure it's clean, that the insulation isn't damaged, running back to the bolt-up points on the frame. So this is a unique thing to us. If a motor needed to be replaced, you don't cut the wires. There's standoffs in the frame. I can unbolt and remove a wire. It's got a D-ring on it. So when I put the new motor on, I just bolt up to power. So it makes motor replacement, if it had to happen, easy to do. The motors are in good shape. The top of the scrub deck is clean. We know the solution valve works. So now I'm going to check my brushes. Take them off. And one came off each side. I'm going to turn them over. I want to make sure there's no debris in here. So when you scrub, sometimes there'll be paper clips or a rock or something in here, and if you drive along your floor spinning that on the floor, you're going to cut swirls in the floor. So I want to make sure they're clean, the bristles are in good shape, there's no clumps of fiber missing. So this one's good. This one's also in really good shape. This is the way they came off the machine. Now when they run, they're spinning one direction. To make them spin the other direction, I switch which side of the machine they're on. That's called reversing my brushes. So to put them back on, I'm going to put them on like this. When they turn, they get bent. When I switch sides, it stands them back up on their tips. It helps them scrub the floor better. It also helps the fibers last longer. Underneath the machine, there's a hub shaped just like this 8-petaled flower impression in the top of the brush. I'm just going to touch them and make sure they're good. There's nothing on them. They don't, no burrs or bars where maybe they got damaged. So I line that brush up. When it snaps on, if it's on right, it stays when I push on it. You can see this one's dangling. I'm going to find his clip. And now he's good. So I check my brushes, check my hubs. Scrub deck's clean and clear of debris. Because this is a disc machine, there's opportunities to have things up here. Check my wiring, everything's good. The actuator ran when we ran the machine, right? So that's a quick test for the actuator. I'm looking, there's nothing that seems to be out of line here. The wiring for it's readily visible. I'm gonna go ahead and shut my doors. Not all the way, because I need to tip the tank down. Close the jaws and latch them in place.
One of the most critical parts of a scrubber is the squeegee. That does the final wipe and clean. So if you aren't recovering all that dirty water, you're leaving a lot of it on the floor, which can look like a poor floor, streaking and whatnot. So we're gonna check the squeegee system here. This squeegee is a pivot squeegee. It's also a breakaway. So you can see the rear plate is slotted, so if you should really catch something, it's gonna pop out without bending up the whole geometry of the squeegee. This is our vacuum hose. We're gonna check that while we're here. So it's all 1.5" tubing, and then once it hits the fitting on the machine, it goes to 2". So if there would be any clogging for any reason, this is where you would find it. And I'm not seeing any today. It's a good idea to stick your finger up in here, make sure there's no obstructions. Right now I'm here anyway, so I'm gonna check the dirty water hose, the drain hose. Make sure there's no leaks, any visible cracks, punctures, or anything. And I'm actually gonna check the functionality of the cap, make sure it's sealing good. And as long as I'm here, I'm gonna check this machine has an external charger, so it has the red Anderson plug on it. Sometimes you'll find that these are cracked because people yank the cord from 6 feet away at an angle, so that puts a lot of stress on this plug. This one is good. Remember, always grab the plug and pull straight out. One thing I noticed right away, this does have the squeegee adjustment tool, which you use to adjust your pitch and your ride height. But it's missing the little yellow retaining knob, so Kevin's gonna mark that down on the sheet that we need that. So this is your squeegee. When it rides on the floor, you should have equal deflection. So you should have the same angle here as right there on the edge. If not, something is wrong or bent up or just needs adjusting. So to adjust the pitch, which controls this aspect of it, that's done with this turnbuckle here. And with the tool, if it does need adjusting, you just loosen your 2 jam nuts, and then the actual middle of the turnbuckle goes into that smaller part, and now you can rotate that and change the angle of the plate. To change the ride height, that's done on the individual casters here. So if you're finding that your squeegee is angled good, but is like off the floor, or if it's way deep in the floor, then you probably need some adjustment on your casters. And that's done also with this tool with the opposite end. You can loosen the jam nut and then go up or down accordingly. Hand tighten the jam nut, run the machine and check it. And then once it's good, then you can actually take your tool and jam it down even tighter. Like I said earlier, if your blades are bad, the scrubber's gonna look bad. So all squeegees have 2 blades. You can see this is your front blade. It's held on with the retaining band and nice large thumb screws. These little slots allow the air and water into the front so that it can be vacuumed up the hose and dumped into the recovery tank. The rear blade actually does the final wipe and makes the floor look nice. So it's pretty pertinent that we have a nice crisp edge on this. And all RPS squeegees have 4 usable edges. Right now we're dragging on this inside edge. After a while that'll start to wear out and you'll get a little 45-degree angle on it. When that does happen and it starts to lose performance, you simply flip the squeegee over to the opposite edge. So this outside edge would now be on the inside. Okay, now we're gonna flip the blade. Even though this is good, I'm gonna show you the process of it. So we have an over center latch here. Undo the over center latch. This stainless retaining band just pivots up and slides off of that bolt. Same thing with the smaller one on the opposite end. Now you can see here the tips of the blades are retained by the front band actually. Goes through a slot. This keeps the front blade from dripping down and create an air leak, and you'd have not very good pickup. So you slide that out, pull it off each stainless bolt head. And now we're going to look for a nice crisp clean side. I think we'll go with that one. And just do the opposite process. Slide it under the bolt, put it through the slot, indent every stainless bolt head. And now we're going to put our straps back on. Very simple blade change. You can easily be done in under 20 seconds. Put the squeegee back on. I like to loosen the knobs a little bit more. Slide it into the carrier and then just hand tighten these. If you use a wrench on them, you're going to over tighten them. When you hit something or it jams, you're going to end up bending the geometry of the squeegee. Now I'm going to reinstall my squeegee hose. And that's all good. Now Kevin's going to tell you about the inside of the recovery tank.
So Rick troubleshot the squeegee and checked all the hoses for us coming up to the recovery tank. So now we're gonna inspect everything that's important here in the recovery tank. So it starts with our annealed polycarbonate lid. We want to check this and make sure that it does not have any mechanical damage or cracking. Polycarbonate's a highly flexible material, really good for this application, but in abusive environments it can have some damage. So this lid looks good. The next thing I'm going to inspect on the lid is actually the gasket that seals it to the body of the machine to make our vacuum good. This is a pressed on gasket. You can slide off and slide a replacement on easily, but this one's in phenomenally good shape. The machine's reasonably new, so it's in good shape. The straps that perform as the hinge, all in good shape. Nuts and bolts and the screws that hold in place, everything's good, so the lid and the gasket are good. So we're going to come back and follow our water again. Comes up from the squeegee through this hose into the drain saver basket. So I just real quick, I want to look in this hose and I can see right down to see there's no obstructions in the hose. The hose is in good shape. I'm going to put it out of the way. Next, I lift out the drain saver basket. Again, this captures debris when a person's scrubbing. This one is clean. The splash flap's in place, and this is an important part. Keeps water from blowing out all over the machine when the water comes in from the squeegee. So everything's in good condition here. Drop it back in. Make sure I put the vacuum hose back into the inlet. Stainless baffle's good. So now on the front side, we're dealing with where air flows to the vac motor. And so this is where we have a lot of protections in place. For the vac motor, we want them all to be in good operating condition. Starts with stainless screen basket. Inside there is our large diameter float ball that would come up as the dirty water fills the recovery tank. It may also float on heavier foam to shut off airflow to the vac motor as the tank gets full. Everything's in good shape there. The screen's clean, so I know air flows through and the ball's in place. Next we go inside the box where we find our hexagonal filter. And you can see, right, it's dirty. This filter serves a few purposes. It does filter dust. If somebody puts a squeegee down on a dry floor, it keeps that solid particle out of the vac motor. It also will deflect water and foam, absorb water, so it trickles down towards the vac motor. So one, this part needs to be in the machine. It's a critical part. Two, we'd like it to be clean. And the best way to check it is just to hold it up to a light, and you can see right through it. I don't know if you can catch that. Okay. Everything's good here. If this was dirty, I would rinse it out in the sink, shake the excess water out of it. Do not crush it because then air can't flow through it well. So we just shake the excess out. It doesn't hurt this to be wet, and we put it back in the machine. Last thing I do want to just check real quick is this hose is an airflow hose. We want to make sure it's clamped in place well, and it is top and bottom. The hose clamps are nice and tight. Tank is clean. It's in good condition. So everything on this end of the recovery of water is in good operating shape. So now we've checked all the water flow system on the machine. Things are good. We want to just check our tires and our casters, make sure they're in good shape. We want to make sure there's no debris in them. A lot of machine shops or manufacturing companies, you'll find screws and nails and things, metal shavings stuck in the tires. It's not good for the tire. It'll cut chunks out of it. Also not good for a customer to be rolling metal pieces across expensive floors. So this tire's in good shape. I look at my caster wheel. There's nothing wrapped around the axle shaft. There is a lubricating point for the swivel. You might lubricate your caster for the swivel. It actually rides on a dry bushing for the axle. Everything's in good shape here. I'll check the other side. If that's all good, then we're going to go inside and check our batteries out and make sure that the heart of the machine is in good condition.
Next, we're going to check all the cells of the battery for clarity, level, and actually use a hydrometer to test the effectiveness of the battery acid. If you have AGM batteries, which are a sealed type of battery, you can skip this step because it won't need to be done. So I'm going to hand Kevin the clipboard. He's going to document what I tell him. It's also important to have some sort of eye protection. It's a good idea to wear rubber gloves, and you will need a hydrometer and some paper towel to clean up any spilled acid. So loosen your jaws, undo your side, and just tip the machine back. Some batteries are different. Some have individual caps per cell. This one has a block cell, so I'm going to need a screwdriver to pop these off. Just put your screwdriver in, pivot up, and put them to the side. Now I'm going to check each cell, but there is a specific order on your PM sheet. You want to start from front to back, starting at the positive terminal. I'm also going to check all the clarity levels and the actual level of the electrolyte in the batteries, so it's all good. Okay, now that we checked all the cell levels, I'm going to wipe off any acid that was dripped and then make sure to properly dispose of this paper towel because it will contain battery acid.
You want to talk about your PPE?
And now I'm going to check all the cables, make sure nothing's loose, make sure there's no arcing marks. Loose cables can cause problems with batteries. I'm going to pop all the caps back on. Oh, it is a good idea before you check the batteries to have them fully charged. If you don't have them fully charged, you'll actually get false readings of bad batteries. Okay, everything's set here. Last thing to do is actually test run the machine. Let's go put some more water back in it and we'll give it a run. Okay, upon first inspection of the machine, I noticed an issue with the squeegee. You can see down here it's not properly adjusted. It's actually not hitting the floor there. We have good deflection on the edges, but not in the middle. So I think the best thing to do is loosen all your adjustment points. So the two jam nuts, those are loose. I'm going to loosen my two caster height adjustment jam nuts. And now I'm going to put this wrench on here, drive the machine slowly. See that? Even deflection all the way across the blade. So now I can jam my nuts down. And that's it.
Oh, I get to talk. Or my turn to talk.
Is your mic on? Is my mic on?
My mic's on.
My mic's on. Are
Okay,
both the
but
mics
then
on?
what are we saying? Because last time you did the thank you thing, and I did the thank you, and you said check us out on.
How about you say thank you?
Okay.
Well, then we're not doing rock, scissors, or paper.
Right.
Thanks for watching our video. I hope it was helpful to you.
Right.
And then I'll say hit the like and subscribe button and check out some of our other videos.
Boom.
If you need any other information, our contact, if you have any further questions, our contact information is below.
There you go. So
Okay.
all I'm going to say is thanks for joining. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for taking time to.